Ta. Hello, lovely people. I have the honor to help out for Kathy again. The poor thing has been up all night in a lot of pain. So, Kathy, when you watch this, we wish you a very, very speedy recovery because what you've been through last night, I don't wish upon my worst enemy. So, welcome everybody to our weekly call. And here we've got somebody else joining us. Yay. I had a topic on my mind over the last couple of days, in particular. Hello, Joanne. That went quite deep because I had a conversation with a gentleman about his mother who recently passed. And he said I'm going to share as much as I can without, obviously compromising any identity or anything too personal. But this is something that is quite generic, and that's the only part I will share about this. That he said it's now his mum and his dad gone, which made him realize that he now feels like he's an orphan. And what often happens, and I've noticed this a lot in the work that I'm doing, and I understand I'm not the only one here working in the space of grief, that it often brings up this, oh, now I'm the next generation that will go. And that is quite profound because what I've noticed is that it often happens on a subconscious level. People don't consciously think about it. Sometimes they do, often not. And what it brought up for me is the topic of legacy. And I thought this is really a topic that is so close to my heart that I would love to bring to this beautiful group here because I feel you are just the perfect audience to talk about that with. To me, I first came across this topic very intensely when Rob, my husband, died, and I wrote my first book. I really wanted to call the book Love Legacy for Rob. And the person that helped me publish the book and go through the process back then said it might not be the ideal title when you think of sales. And I thought, bugger that. It's for me, it's not for sales. It's like, this is my story. This is in my heart. This is like the message that I want to leave. But I also understood that my story can't touch people if they don't buy it. She suggested a topic, Loving Love After Loss, as a title, and I fell in love with it. I didn't like it at first. I felt it was too commercial. It was too this, too that. I didn't really like it. And the more I sat with it, the more it infused me. And I really loved it. And I actually ended up calling my first book that and the movement that I founded thereafter. The reason why I wanted to share that as a little pre-story is because my whole intention behind all of that was to leave a love legacy for Rob, to keep sharing his story, to keep sharing his legacy, what he instilled in me, in us, in the family. And there was so much love and connection, hence the title Love Legacy. So before I go any further, I would really like to put this topic out for all of you. And the first question that I wanted to throw into the round here, into our circle, is what does legacy actually mean to you? What comes up for you? What is the first thing that you think of when you hear that word?
This is one very big question. I think we could go the whole hour on this one question potentially. That's huge. It's funny because I throw the word legacy around when I talk about the gathered family hubs, which is the centers that I want to create for families. And that for me is the legacy that I want to leave
Hmm.
commercially or in terms of the global impact. My family and what they choose to do with their lives is also part of my legacy. So it's the for me, it's the impact that I leave, the influence that I create that then has the capacity to move on.
Mm.
That's what it means for me.
Yeah, I love that. Mm.
Yeah, mine's similar. Obviously, it starts with the kids in regards to home, and the reason my wife and I have chosen the paths that we're doing in our workplace and career, well, not just the main part, but one of the parts was just to help our kids understand or to learn that they can create stuff. They don't have to go into specific systems of um, outside of schooling and how they think and how they do things. So our legacy is leading by example for the kids and giving them, not that it always goes to plan, but we're doing our best to give them some ideas or just some, I guess, mentors to look up to, or parents, as we are, to see how things can work and how to work through challenging situations if they're not working as well. So on those sorts of levels, and I suppose similar to you, Philip, is like the movement I'm bringing in is transforming anxiety, transforming overwhelm and burnout by reconnecting to what matters to us most. And so that's where I'm sort of building that, and on a global scale of everyone becoming more connected and reconnected to self and others, then we have a better space to live. And then that just affects and flows on to everybody else. And so big picture, like putting all that in, the legacy is not just me or them, it's everybody. So, and I suppose this is what our mission is on this platform and on Backyard Peace Project is global, and being able to put that together. And I think, always inspired by you guys and what you guys are putting forward and creating in the world, and so grateful to be a part of that. And I think putting all our heads together is such a perfect sort of opportunity for that growth across the planet. And so the legacy grows as we grow. So I love that.
And may I just throw in there, a quick ad break for our book that just came out, the Backyard Peace Project, Volume 1, Finding Peace Through Struggles, becoming an Amazon #1 bestseller. It just shows how people really need that and are drawn to the stories and really want to connect with those real life stories and what has come out of that and what legacy is that we're leaving here. Joanne, you've been putting your hand up.
Yes, legacy for me is a few elements. I shared with you in an interview I did with you, Marie, about a situation when I announced the business closure and the reaction by staff. And it was something that was surprising. So I feel when we talk about legacy, it needs to be a conscious activity, right? Because that actually took me by surprise, their reaction to me, and I'm not going to spoiler alert. You can go and listen to the podcast.
I just want to say, share a little bit about it, but
well, very quickly, I announced I was liquidating my $30 million business, and I had 99% of my staff stay for another week without pay to empty the office. Right. And that surprised me. And then I got a card within an hour to say, we knew you were going through some challenges and we bought the card yesterday, no idea of what was happening today. So that was a very unexpected thing and was something that has sat with me for a very long time. And as an extra piece to that is what impact it has on your children. So my daughter is now 29, and she said to me a while ago that the legacy, this is deeply connected legacy. She said to Mum, I don't know how I'm going to financially support you when you need it. Wow. Because I lost everything in that business closure. And I said to her, sweetheart, that's beautiful that you want to do that. But rest assured, that's not going to happen. But that was absolutely a piece that has shaped the way she does her work. She's focused, she's driven. So I think what we need to be really mindful of when we talk about legacy is to be very present with it and be very mindful of it, because it surprises you how many people are watching and listening and you don't actually realize that, right? For me, my legacy, I know full on what my business legacy is going to be, in that I'm helping women in business, and there's 1,000 women a year will get my entire program at no cost, fully scholarshiped. And so the legacy be the impact of building the ripple effect of new businesses being sustainable. But what that also does is ticks that box for the concern my daughter has for us, because I will not be on the age pension. That will not happen to me, and I don't have too far away to get to that, but I won't be on it. It's just not going to happen. So for me, it's the presence and awareness and intention of what legacy is, and to be incredibly mindful. It's like when you're driving in the car and you swear on it, and you've got a toddler in the back, and they immediately say that word in the most inappropriate moment, right? That's legacy in its grassroots point, right?
I never thought about it that like that, but it is. It's so
It
true.
is.
It's legacy. But may I just say, Joanne, like I do, the conversation that we had, and I will throw it in there so people find you, not just for advertising purposes. I'm saying just very, yeah. On Unsilence Grief, when you shared your story, it really touched me how your staff showed up, because when you talk about liquidating a $30 million business, you might think it is all about money. But what happened was such a legacy of how you treated your staff all along. Otherwise they wouldn't have showed up for you like that. And
Thank you.
that to me is more important and more beautiful than any money in the world. And I understand it's easy to say, but when you need it and when you need it to survive. But I truly feel that is the legacy that I want to leave as well, where people think of me not because of the money that they earn through my business or whatever, but through the difference that we're making in their lives. And I understand that most people think of children straight away when it comes to legacy. I obviously do as well, because for me, everything I do is about changing the narrative of grief. But I do that because I want my children to have a different path. I want my children to have a happy life. I want my children to realize that there's still so much love and joy and happiness in this world and not just the grief. So my legacy is very clear for me. It seems like your legacy is very clear for you as well. And it really speaks volumes about you that the first thing that your daughter thought, how can I support you, Mum?
Mm.
It's beautiful. It's
That's
just
hard to hear. I have to say, that's very hard to hear.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting as you've been talking, I've been thinking about the journey that I've been on lately in terms of really sinking into breaking a pattern that my mother set up for me as a child, which was, her love language being acts of service. And so then I perceived that my value was in doing, not in being. And having rejected that over the past few months and choosing to know, and I repeat this anytime I need an update, I choose to know my value comes from being, not from doing.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is, even in what I'm doing, it's unique and it's powerful because of how I'm being in that, not because of because anybody can do what I do. It's about how I be, who I am in that space. And I think having rejected the doing, and yes, I do a lot. Most people look at what I put on my plate, and yes, things fall off my plate, but they look at what I put on my plate and they're like, ah, and yep, I do a lot, but it's because that's how I am being in my life. Does that make sense? But I do it with as much integrity and authenticity as I possibly can. And I show up with a heart of love and commitment and dedication to the people that I work with and to my family. And so I think that for me, that's part of the legacy I think I want to leave is my children knowing that just by being, that's my legacy is them being, but also, and in whatever way they show up, because it's about acceptance for me with children who are, mid-teens to early 20s, who knows what their life will bring. And I don't care. I don't care who they choose, how they choose, what they choose to do. Sorry. I care who they are and how
Mm.
they are being in the world. Does that make sense? So I think from that perspective, that's the shift that I'm making um in my estimation of my legacy, if that
Mm.
makes
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Gabriella, I just saw your thank you so much, Philippa, because I think it's such a beautiful such a beautiful message. It hits me every time because I've heard you share that story before, and it's all about the doing versus being. It is so much bigger than we give it credit for. So thank you so much for sharing that. Gabriella, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, just listening to this makes me think about how grief really shapes and shifts our perspective. And legacy for me isn't, I think we all talk about legacy, leaving these big achievements or big impact on people around us, whether it's family or work colleagues, and the bigger story. And I think listening to Joanne, it's the small ways that we impact people, and we do this every day, when we don't even know that we're doing it. And I think we need to stop and be able to actually see the value that we give. I don't think we allow ourselves necessarily the idea that what we do every day is possibly a legacy to somebody that we've impacted. And I believe a lot of it is the kindness that we show, the lessons that we share, and the memories that we're going to leave behind. So I recently have been thinking, like, what do I want people to carry forward from me when I'm no longer here? And it always comes back to that. I want my family to know love. And I want them to know that my core existence is family.
That is
So that's my legacy.
so beautiful. Love that. Because at the end of the day, that's all that counts, right? Love. And for our family and for our friends and everybody around us to know how much they are or were loved by us. And one thing that you just said, Gabriella, I just want to quickly pick this up, and then I'm going to hand it over to Connie. I I just thought when you said that, that every tiniest act of kindness is leaving a legacy, because often we have conversations, and how often do you hear stories, complete random stories of strangers having done something kind for you, and you still think about it and talk about it years and decades to come, and I'm going to quickly, so is that okay, Connie? I just quickly want to share one thing about that, because there's a beautiful story I understand it's been circulating Facebook and on all sorts of social media platforms for years and years. But there was this story about people coming together at a funeral, and then this one person started talking about a teacher and how she's done this beautiful exercise with them. Does anybody know which story I'm talking about? There's an exercise that the teacher did with the kids at school, and she said, write one kind word or sentence about each student. And then she collects it and gives it to each student. And when they met at the funeral, each and every one of them had it somewhere folded up in their wallet, in their purse, wherever, and they all held on to that. And I thought, how beautiful is that? And if the teacher only knew that that's the legacy that she left, and I also know that all of us, without a doubt, have been in a situation somewhere along our school career or work career where we would have needed a letter like that, or some tiny little reassurance that's never tiny and little. It's always quite big when it infuses your heart in a moment where you need it the most. So I just wanted to share that. That came up for me when you said kindness, Gabriella, because it's always those little things that we don't think have got, a huge impact, but it might change a person's life or sometimes even save a person's life if it comes in the right moment. Connie.
Yeah. This is a very interesting topic for me, uh, because I became that sort of orphan status in 2019 when my mom passed away, and it really hit me. It's like, wow, like you say, I'm the next generation to go. But the other thing is because I don't have children, I do have a stepson that I was in a relationship with, but I don't have biological children. And so for me, it's like, well, it ends at me. It doesn't go any further. So, what is my purpose here? What legacy can I leave? And so many people, when they think about legacy, they also think about financial legacy. A lot of times they don't think about the influence or impact that they've maybe had on others around them. And I'm very, very blessed that my stepson is still in my life, and he'll be 34 in January. And I still appreciate little things that he'll share with me about the time that him and his dad and I were together, and the impact of things that I encouraged him to do, or the I guess just the way I showed up. and he'll comment on them, and they really warm my heart. But after my mom passed away, it's like, what legacy can I leave? And that's where, my passion for what I do as far as a holistic nutritionist. I was listening to an interview about something, and this person said, "Well, my legacy will be," and the other person said, "You don't really know what your legacy will be because your impact on people will be different for everyone. They might notice a different part of you that somebody else won't even see." And so I thought, okay, my focus is to leave the legacy of nutrition. And if I can provide women, because I focus on working with women, if I can provide women with that knowledge, hopefully they can provide that knowledge to their families, to their children, other people in their family. But at the end of the day, I don't really know exactly what my legacy will be. I guess that remains to be seen when somebody's doing my eulogy. That at that point when I'm gone. But for me, really, the biggest thing is, um, you know, before my mom passed away, I asked her when we were having dinner one night, and I said, what advice would you give to me as, you're gone and the way you'd like to see me live my life or the person that I would be? And she said, it costs nothing to be kind. So keep that in mind. It's easy to give. And I actually recorded the conversation, and I have her voice still telling me that. So every now and then I play that back when I
Lovely.
need that reminder, when I'm feeling really lost
Mm.
of who I am and how I want to show up in the world. So, yeah,
What a precious gift that you have that in her voice.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's, oh my
Oh,
God, it touches me so deeply because, like since Rob died, I often think about that, how and what I can leave behind for my children. And I'm not even talking about this, what we just said, the big legacy and the changing the narrative of grief, paving a different path for them. That, yes, super important. And of course, I want that. But I'm thinking of those little things. Like I have like a little A6 journal, and every night before I go to bed, I write at least one sentence in it, something, best thing of today, something I'm grateful for. And I often think about when I write stuff in there, I'm like, ooh, my boys might be reading this one day. Sometimes, every now and then, that just crosses my mind, when I'm gone. They would find these journals, and then I often think, should I write this in there? Do I want but I think it's those little things in day to day that, to me, are often more important than the big things, than the money, than the big legacy that is for the outside world. It's the moments of kindness or the one beautiful kind word that your mom said to you. Those are the little things that I want my boys to have when I go. And we never know when that is. And that's why I want to say this to you, Connie. What you do, I find so important, because for some that might be nutrition and healthy living, etc., etc. For me, having a healthy body, having a healthy mind has become more important than ever, because now I'm a sole parent. So I'm
yes.
very aware of when something happens to me that they are on their own. And yes, they are supported. And yes, they're financially looked after. I made sure that all of that, those boxes are ticked because we've been through it. So I know the importance of it. But it is in those little things that then become the huge things.
Yeah.
That little recording, the couple of minutes recording, or the kind word that you said. So I just want to thank you for sharing that, because to me, nutrition is something that is more important than anything else and than it ever was, because now it's got a very different meaning to me.
Yeah.
Hmm. Paul, you unmuted yourself. Patiently wait.
Mm. just trying to get my words together. It really hits me when I hear stories like that. Like it's so important, and checking in on life and checking in on yourself. And it's got me thinking about the finer details, like what Gabriella was saying. It's like we're always looking at how do we leave a legacy for others, but it always comes to mind, and I guess I've been thinking about this a lot lately about time, and thinking about when you get to the end of the race. Will you have regrets? Will you have moments of time where you thought, I wish I did? And is not only the legacy for others, but for yourself to get through, and not to get through, but to live your life how you want to. So you get to the end of the race and go, that was awesome. I had a great time. I had some terrible times, but they made it even better. And then what I like to do for myself and for people I work with is get them to think about one little win they've done every day, like whatever it is. If it's just like taking 2 minutes to breathe before a meeting, having a moment with their loved one, having space to go and sit in the sun for a minute. It's like little wins brings in the legacy of what Phil was saying. It's like, who am I being in those moments? And giving yourself space to stop the doing and be you for a moment, or be in the moment. And I think that's a huge legacy in itself, to not only to embody that, but then that flows out in your work and who you share that with. Because as you said, people see what you're doing without you seeing what you're doing. That makes sense. And the amount of impact that we'll actually have, you will never know. Online, offline, people you've had a chat with down the road, and those little words and sayings and comments could change someone's trajectory in their life. But sometimes we may never know. Like you hear of some, but again, it's like embodying the being and being you as best you can be in those moments, and taking those little questions and putting them to practice daily. So then you get through your life every single day and go, that was a good day. Or even if you had a rough day, I'm still here, I'm still breathing, I'm still moving. It's still a good day. And then what can we learn from that? So I think that the impact of the question goes into, what if we tune in with ourselves every single day? And that's just enough for impact, for legacy? Because they talk about you and what you were and who you were, and not so much how much money you made by the end of it. It's like who you were and what sort of impact you had on their lives. So I feel like that's a huge, huge important part to bring in to the conversation of who are we being right now. And you may not like all of it, but guess what? You've got choices and you can change it. And that's the work. And that's the living, and that's the legacy of going, well, I was in a rough place and now I got myself out of it. Here's how you can do it if you like. And so it's all shared experience and shared knowledge and shared nutrition. This is what traditions are made of. And that's basically a legacy. The tradition gets passed down to the next generation, teaching the women to nurture themselves, to grow in financially business, but also nurturing nutrition then passes on in the generations. And I think that's a huge, huge impact in itself. Keep it simple, keep it massive.
Joanne, I had the feeling that 3 times you wanted to say something. Am I right?
Oh, that's all right. I just thought I'd share something that I was very blessed, and I went to Vietnam for the last 2 weeks. I came back last week,
You went
and
where, sorry?
I went to Vietnam
Vietnam.
in the last 2 weeks. Um, and I'd noticed something, and then I was talking to a friend of mine, and I noticed there was an awful lot of women running businesses, and I hadn't really thought about it. And this is directly related to legacy. And he pointed out to me he'd done business for many years in Vietnam. And he said, you do realize that women entrepreneurs are the women who have a huge presence in family and in business in Vietnam. And I went, oh my gosh, so many men died in what they call the American War. that women had to step up, and the legacy was that they had no choice. They had to step up, they had to run the businesses, they had to look after the families. And I saw it absolutely everywhere. Consummate saleswomen, these ladies, and whether they're, and I took so many photos of them. I actually did it, so profound was it that I did a post on LinkedIn this week directly related to that. Whether they're sitting in the dirt cooking a beautiful meal, or they're crafting wares, or they're running a hotel, and everything in between, mostly were women, and because the legacy of the loss of men, so many men in the what we know as the Vietnam War, what they call the American War, was amazing, absolutely amazing. And they had no choice, as I said. But they are happy, vibrant, beautiful people. It was lovely to see.
That is such an intense example. And for me, I hope it's okay to throw that in there because I really feel that it's something that I would like to talk about here. What just came up for me when you said that, Joanne, is they had no choice. You know, that is such a statement that is so often used. And even though I can so clearly see what you mean by that, my biggest thing in the work that I do is always like, what can we do with with the cards that we've been dealt with? That's where the actual choice is. And I do not want to claim that I understand what these women are going through, having lost their husbands in war, having families at home that they need to support. And I can easily see where that comes from. They had no choice. They had to step up. And for me, I really want to put this in there because like I'm sitting here thinking, well, I have no choice. I need to work. I'm the sole income earner. I'm the sole provider. So I can sort of relate to that, even though I do not want to compare my situation with theirs. I certainly sit in a lot more comfort than these women probably do. However, there is this one thing I want to throw in, because to me it goes hand in hand with legacy, is the choices that we make with that, how we actually take that. And I absolutely admire these women because I often see it comes not from a space of victimhood. They really step up with such wholeheartedness out of love for their families. And yes, there is this, well, I have to provide and we need to survive. I get that. But there's also that wholeheartedness, that embracing what they are, what they have been giving, the cards that they've been dealt, basically. And I just want to really highlight that because I know that one of my very first mentors, and Paul and I trained both under him. There was always we always have a choice. We always have a choice. And I'm like, Rob, my husband, was the one who taught me the concept of two choices before I even got into coaching. And I've been a student of that concept ever since. Let me put it that way. It's a really big concept of where is our choice in all of that? And is it really that we don't have a choice at all? That's a tough one, even for me, even now, but I thought I just wanted to pick that up now that you said that.
I think you raise a good point, however, and I face that, you face that. We definitely had a choice. We could have taken different pathways. You and I could have had it decided, well, no, I think the world owes me something now. I'm not going to pick myself up and keep going. We have the benefit of systems in this country that will support us in doing that. Clearly, not obvious, but they don't have that support mechanism in Vietnam. But I still think we still have a choice, and we can choose to be the victim, or to realize, actually, I'm at the bottom now. I can't get any lower.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. But for me, it's about then, well, how do I do that so that I feel supported? And have that conscious concept of what circle do I need to put myself in to feel supported and lifted, and so that I can be a better person and survive this thing in whatever way, shape, or form, whatever time frame. So I feel we do have a choice. It's what we choose, which pathway we choose to take.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think acknowledging that we have a choice is the first step to taking responsibility. And for a lot of people, that can be a huge step. It can be really hard. I remember when I had my first baby and it ended in trauma, and it took me about 3 months to just get a handle on being a mum before I went, actually, that was really shit. And I need to figure out why that was shit. And the very first step to me coming out the other side was recognizing that I had given decision-making capacity to the doctor, but I was responsible for the decisions he made because it was my choice and I gave it to him to decide.
Mm.
And I chose right then and there to never give decision-making capacity to somebody else again for me because I would be responsible either way. That doesn't mean I don't seek help or get, expert advice or anything else, but I take responsibility for the decisions that I make moving forward. And I had to own that stuff again, even just with my 22-year-old this morning over a discussion around her mothering. I was like, yep, that's on me. I made that decision at that point in time. And so owning our choices and understanding that even if we make a choice in a place that isn't where we would have liked to have been, that's the choice we made in that moment. And when we can own that without judgment, again, I'm coming back to this idea of curiosity over judgment, right? If we can own our decisions without judgment and just be curious about who we were, where we were, and what maybe was going on for us, and then say, okay, well, I'm in a different place now, or this is the decision I'm going to make moving forward, and here's why. But until we start having, stepping into the responsibility of making choices, for all of the power that that actually creates for us, because if you don't have the choice to or the capacity to make that decision, if that's not something you step into, you're making a choice either way.
Yeah.
Right. So we either choose to take responsibility for our choices, or we choose not to, but we're choosing and we are responsible. We're just not owning it. Right. I would much rather own it. But that's a big step, and a lot of people need support, and sometimes they feel they need permission to do that as well. And if you're listening, this is your permission. If you need that, take it because it is absolutely up to you. Your power is in your right and ability to choose. That's your power. That's where it lies.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you choose, owning the power of your choice makes you a different and better person.
And it sets you up differently. You really do feel that empowerment, even just the way you say it. It's, yeah. Funny.
I really love what you said there, Philippa, because something that I always remind myself of in those moments where I go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And I always say to myself, but at the time, it was the best decision. So I take responsibility for the choice, even if sometimes it's like, oh, that didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to. But then I have to look back at, okay, in the situations that I made the choice and it maybe didn't turn out the way that I thought, what did I learn from it? Did I learn that, ooh, maybe I just made the decision too quickly rather than thinking about it for a moment or whatever, or, didn't view the situation properly. But then there's the other decisions that did work out, and it's like, oh, good on me for making that one. So I always like to remind myself is at the moment in time, based on the situation, it was the best choice, and just leave it at that. But you're so right. We always have that choice. And I love that you said, here's your permission. Like, just make it and see where it takes you.
I'd love to piggyback on those two comments as well, because I think it's a brilliant aspect, like bringing it back to ourselves. It's like, how many times have we held back from doing anything because we don't know? And that's the moment. It's like making the decision is up to you in those moments. Like you're not a doctor, or if you haven't studied in those sorts of things, how would you know? But you know you as best you know you in that moment. And then in the future, you might have different experiences that then you know more about that situation. Going, this is that whole hindsight thing, but we don't know all the things. Yet, how often, and this to out to the world is the holding back because of the unknown is what stops us from actually bringing in when we're talking about legacy. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't know, that we don't know, that we will need to do to create a real legacy. It's about the being, it's about the doing, and it's about making choices in those moments where we're like, oh, this is a hard one. Help, please. Or and then but maybe just using the help as a feedback sort of mechanism. But we always have the answer if we take the time to stop and tune in. And this is why I'm so passionate about the breath, because it gets us out of all the monkey mind and the busyness in there, brings you back into your most present state where you can make better decisions. Yeah. It gives you space to feel into and use your emotional guidance system as, is this direction right? Is it light? Is it energizing? Is it inspiring? Or is it heavy? Is it hard? Is it draining? And so using your body's system as your guidance for these decisions, if you're feeling light and inspired, then go for it. You're getting messages from your soul to say, this is the path, even if your consciousness is going, but that's not where I want to go. That's a little to the left. It's like, let's take a chance. And then your energy continues to build and build and build the more often you do that. And then you're building mind muscles of, well, actually making decisions and challenging decisions is a better way and a better direction for me. And so giving ourselves space in each and every moment to have a crack, to build your legacy by sometimes it's you have to make some big decisions. Like you're saying, Joanne, you had to shift the business, opt out, and I'm sure that wasn't easy at all. But then where it's led you to, I could imagine you've got a story from that legacy to now creating something bigger for the women of the world to be able to prevent that or to create a better opportunity. And I think that's so important. So important.
Thank you. I want to throw something in here to sort of wrap this up for today and to give our listeners something to maybe think about. And I had an idea that we could create a little questionnaire. I would love it if everybody just maybe thinks of one question when you think about legacy, and anyone listening to this might not have had the moment or the chance to actually think about what their legacy is. And we could create a little questionnaire for them if everybody could maybe think of one question that they would want to throw in there. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you that up front to get a moment to think about that. Gabriella, you sent one word and I saw it pop up in the chat box while I was listening to everybody else, tradition. Do you mind sharing what came up for you, why you wrote that word in there?
Yeah, when Paul was speaking, and it just resonated because when I said about the legacy for me would be family love, I
Yeah.
guess tradition is pretty strong. We have pretty strong traditions around special times of the year where I've got 3 adult children, I've got 9 grandchildren. So it's quite a big group when we get together. So we have quite strong traditions where we all get together and probably 3-4 times a year at least, but we're all together in the same room. We have lunch, we laugh, we play games. That's our tradition. And that's the legacy when I talk about family love. It's actually probably more than just love. And when Paul used the word tradition, I went, aha, that's my legacy. So that's why I wrote it. I thought it's a great word, and thanks for that, Paul.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I thought it might be a nice way to sort of wrap this up with a little bow for anyone listening here. And a lot of you might already have thought about, what is my legacy? What would I like to leave behind in this world, in my children, in my family, in my friends? And for those of you who might have never thought about it before, I thought it would be nice to put a little questionnaire for you together. So is there any question that popped up for you guys? Well, since I asked that, where you said, for you to think about what your legacy might be in this world, have you thought of that? Who wants to go first? Joanne.
How would knowing the legacy you want to leave um, shift what you do today?
I love it. Simple and potent. Thank you. I don't know who went next, Paul or Philippa.
What popped in was if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
I love this. Oh, thank you. I think I needed to hear this. Thank you. Thank you.
I think
Paul?
my question was similar. It says if there was nothing holding you back, was it financial, time, people, places, emotions, fear, doubt, any of that? If there's nothing in your way, what would you do?
Yeah.
And then to, I guess, extend that, what action, what's one thing that you can do right now that is available, easy, and something that aligns with what you would do? And then take action on that. Because we can have all the words and the questions, but unless we do something with them, the action is the key to that as well.
Yeah.
And I think asking yourself too the question of what are my values? What are my actual values? And I have a little tool called the Value Alignment Guide, and it's free on my website, but it's just this simple way of determining what are my values and am I living to my values and am I parenting to my values? Have I ever even articulated that to my partner? So giving, having and then choosing to live your legacy in alignment with your values.
Mm. It's all coming down to having and choosing, right? It's just, that's the reoccurring. Joanne, do you want to read out what you just read in the chat box, just to sum it up?
Exactly the question I just said before, which was, how would knowing the legacy you want to leave shift what you do today?
Yeah. Thank you. Gabriella or Connie, who wants to go first? Gabriella.
Okay. I guess for me, just keeping it simple would be if somebody was going to tell my story today, what part would make me most proud or, yeah, make me feel like I've achieved that legacy? What
Well,
part do I want to hear?
I like that. Thank you. Connie?
Oh, you really got my head spinning here thinking. And, I go back to the weeks before my mom's passing and spending time with her. And of course, I kept thinking about what do you want me to do with this little thing that you have? And what do you want me to do with this picture that was passed down to you from your aunt? And and her response always was, I know you'll do the right thing. I just want to spend time with you. And so I think the question would be for me is, beyond all of the things and the wealth, you know, what will be important to you in those last days? Or if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, what would be the most important thing for you to do today? And those are things we don't think about, right? Because we can lose somebody so quickly, or we can have a situation like I was blessed with to know when my mom was going to die and have those weeks with her. And so those are the things I think about of, yeah, how do I want, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, what would I do today?
Mm.
And that actually really has me thinking right now because I'm probably, um, Yeah, not always doing the things every day that I would want to do if I knew I was going to die tomorrow.
Yeah. That touches me so deeply what you just said, because to me it is always the time is just so much more important than all the things that we leave behind. And I know that my mum and I talk about that a lot because she lost my dad, her husband, when they were 43, 46. Rob and I were both 45. You know, it's both of all four of us. It was such an age where you don't expect it and where it's very, very premature, I want to say, and obviously not from the divine planning, but for us, from a human perspective, it certainly was. And I often think about that, all the things that we leave behind. In particular, my mum, you know, she's always sorting, sorting, sorting. And I'm very grateful for that because I know that I'll be the one sorting if she doesn't do it. But on the other hand, it's like, isn't that time better spent together, you know, rather than and it's easier said than done for us here because my mom lives in Austria. I'm here, so it's not that we get the opportunity to spend time together all the time. But she's coming for Christmas, so I'll have her here for a month. And to me, it's really important that every time when there are things that I feel I want to say that to her in person, um, that I utilize the time that I have with her to be fully present, because I feel that is really the biggest present, to be present. And for the wrapping up purpose here, for the topic of legacy, I think it is what we do in the time that we have together that will surpass time and then infuse future generations. And that to me is the biggest legacy that I want anyone to think about. What is the joy and the happiness that you can leave behind in this world? Because that is what I feel that we need the most in the times that we live in right now. So with that being said, I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you shared today, because I always feel that these topics, we bring them up and every time and every week we sit here and say, wow, that's big, you know, that's one big topic after the other. But that's why I'm so grateful to have you here with me to hold space for all the stories and to share from your hearts. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye for now.